let's glue it together from the end. I'll zoom out, go back into just the whole solo. And here we are on the last riff. And you know, you want to, each time now we're going to glue everything together to memory. We're going to commit it to memory. Now that we've gone through sequentially through each riff and sort of studied the nuances of each one, we're going to think about, again, how to play this well. You play it as slow as you need to. This might be, you know, of course I know this solo by heart, but by working at a speed that's comfortable for you, it'll be much easier. You play to your ability. And the other great thing about this program, Transcribe, is that it actually makes working on kind of tricky things like this much easier. So you can chew on much more challenging pieces when you have the ability to break it down so analytically like this, visually, and with markers creating notes. When I used to do everything with a tape recorder back in the day and slow it down to half speed, it was much more ponderous because you never, I mean, I already talked about this in my other videos, but you never rewound to the exact point that you wanted to stop, for one thing. And then, you know, everything was an octave lower to get it half speed. And so here you can gradually bring up the things to speed as you want. You can snap to the exact part of the song you want. Listening. Going backwards. Review that. Just on its end, just on its own. Yeah, but I got that. I'm going back. Review that chunk just before the next riff. And then glue it. Once you know it, you repeat it a few times perfectly. That is because you don't want to reinforce a mistake. I have a whole sort of 5 pages of how to transcribe to memory, which sort of reinforce a lot of the points I'm talking about. So if you take lessons with me, a part of my job is to really watch you on how you work through a piece so you don't develop lazy practice habits. And then once you start to internalize this sort of working method, it starts to go much faster. I invite anyone to find a faster way to transcribe to memory, because if you do, I'd be all over it. And this is a learning process, 100%, even for me too. And I was just super excited when I stumbled on how to work through this way, working backwards for one thing. There's no faster way, I think, to commit anything to memory than working this way. Oops. And then going backwards. Review that again. Okay, I got that. Now let's glue it to what comes after it. And the other thing is, I mean, you're going to, with the first time working through this and gluing everything to memory, what's going to happen is that you're going to come up to get little chunks that it's like, oh, here comes, your brain is going to go, here comes that really tricky part. And by far, one of the trickiest parts of this solo is that riff that he plays kind of triple time, double time. This one right here. So, and one's brain sort of goes, this can easily be set up for failure because you're stressed out about that one lick. And so you keep screwing it up. And the trick is always to just go back, listen to it, and slow it down if you have to. And then just put it in the micro context of what comes. It's always what comes just before the tricky riff that sets you up for failure. So in this case, and then you gradually speed it up from 50 to 60%, and then back up, to 70%. And faster. And you know, you might not speed it up just for this one chunk. Just make sure you can play the whole thing slowly as is comfortable for you. It's moving back up to 80%. Oh. Okay, so we got that. Let's move them back. Yeah, with that double stop on hole 3 and 4 with a bend. Get the attitude. Make sure your articulation and attack is... with good practice, there's a really cool thing. You can get the note to distort on a full bend number 2, also on a full bend number 3. That if you give it a hard dum dum, you can hear the note kind of distorting as opposed to still tonguing, articulating it, but you get this extra, and it gives it more of that attitude. Listening. Might not play that quite. I'm going to keep moving on here. Sing it to reinforce it. Play just that one new chunk. And then once you have it, only then add it. Play it a few times to reinforce it. Make sure you really got it. Okay, I got it. And I keep reinforcing what I already know. Starting with the new chunk as we work backwards into the solo and reinforcing what we already know. Again, it really helps you prevent you from making mistakes and being lazy. Because if you're working from the front of the solo and starting to glue stuff as you go in, it tends to, you just try it. You'll see what I mean. You by the time you get to the new chunk as you're going forward, first of all, it's like, what the heck was that chunk that I'm trying to add to the front half of the solo? You're adding the new chunk at the end of the phrase, which is kind of, although in one sense it makes sense, in the other, it's much harder to absorb this way. Moving back. I'm not going to do this whole solo, but I think you get the picture by now how to work. Let's just do a little bit more here. Because that's a triplet, we'll just do Okay, I got that. It's that 5 drop, bend 4, blow 4. Okay, I think you get the picture by now how to work through this. I'm not going to do the whole thing and glue it together, but I will, just to show that I know this thing and show you, and then I'll demonstrate with some music, just about improvising a little bit on this. And maybe I'll do that for another video because this is going to be a long video. Here we go, the improvising part with a different groove. But here's the solo. In fact, I'll play it at full tempo here because I think I know it. sloppy in a couple of spots, but I made a note of where I was, the very last riff. And then I think somewhere around here. Anyway, but there you have it. You know, and the thing about learning this stuff well is you got to be really honest with yourself to be objective and really, you know, if you can't, as you're playing and listening, it's also really important to make sure that the level of the music and what you're hearing in your ear as you're transcribing, the level of the music, having some good computer monitors, is equal to what you're hearing in your ear from your own harmonica. Because if one is louder than the other, then you're not hearing what you should be playing, whether you're playing it correctly, for one thing. So that is uber important. All right, I will save the next video about just improvising with the idea of working this way, with taking the style of something like Burgin and taking a similar kind of groove and, you know, maybe just applying some of his ideas, because it's like, okay, obviously you're probably not ever going to play this solo verbatim at a jam, but it's really informed my playing. All the, you know, you know, that kind of stuff. Thank you, David Burgin. So for all of you, if you want to interest in taking lessons, look me up at harmonicapractice.com or just send me an email at cdj@carlosdelhunco.com, and I'll send you info about my lessons and stuff and take you through some of this stuff. All right, thanks for listening.